However, I think the main purpose of the meeting, this meeting, and the purpose of the formation of the Maine People's Veto Alliance is clear. The actions and appointments of the LePage administration make it very clear that it will take a statewide grassroots organization of progressive Maine citizens, of whom I assume you all fall in that group, of progressive Maine citizens to keep a minority of right-wing activists from setting our state back 50 years. I hope that the MPVA will become that statewide organization. But the situation now in Maine goes much deeper than just creating a progressive organization. To go back 120 years, to quote a Maine legislator who spoke in the Maine House, and he said, "Not all the perfumes of Araby can sweeten the foul stench that arises from the last Maine election." We now have a governor in office. We now have a governor in office, and I've never met the man. I don't want to throw rocks. No, I don't want to throw rocks at him, and I think if anyone speaks today that they should use tempered language in contrast to what he has said sometimes. But we now have a governor in office who was put there in part with PAC money, which was passed along from 50 corporations. This money was sent into Maine directly and specifically, in contrast to what you may have heard that it was given to the Republican governor's organization and they just scattered it around the country. That's not true. It was sent there by these corporations directly and specifically to elect Governor LePage. This PAC cost up $1.8 million. And it spent more on media promoting LePage than LePage spent on media to promote himself. Among these PAC funds was $225,000 from the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. Does anyone in his or her right mind, certainly not anybody at this meeting, does anyone in their right mind think that Michigan businessmen kicked in $250,000, almost $250,000, to elect a governor in Maine? This is an obvious subterfuge to hide the actual source of the money. What we have in Maine and other places for years have called a slush fund. So now we have a governor who says he can lead Maine while he's up to his knees in a slush fund of corporate and mystery money. His first act is to file LD1, which will wipe out 50 years of laws protecting the Maine environment. Governor LePage said this is necessary to make improvements in the enforcement of environmental regulations. Well, it may be that there is some need to improve the enforcement of environmental regulations, but you don't burn your house down to toast the marshmallow. Governors and their administration are known also by other actions and their appointments. We now have a governor whose very first appointment was to name his daughter to a well-paid staff job for which she's obviously unqualified. Then we have his appointment of a hospital lobbyist to head up the Department of Human Services. And not finally, but we also have his appointment of a developer to head up the Department of Environmental Protection, where he's supposed to regulate the very development companies that he's involved in. And most recently, we have his refusal to let the state fire marshal testify at a legislative hearing on allowing the sale of fireworks in Maine. Well, this can go on, and it will go on unless we take some strong action to prevent it. As a result of the last election, the Republican Party is in control of the Maine legislature. What is less well known is how this happened. Karl Rove, who was called the brain of President Bush, and he was also called other names, he organized a massive national slush fund, now being investigated for accepting illegal money from foreign nations. Karl Rove, or his slush fund, pumped $400,000 of his slush money into Maine legislative races to buy media a few days before the election to defeat Democratic candidates. This money, roughly $87,000 per candidate for the Maine Senate, was given just a few days before the election. It was too late for the candidates, most of whom were running on clean election money, to counter this. And so it resulted in 5 senators being wiped out. This was obvious over in Lewiston, where Senator Snow Mello, who is the Republican now sponsoring the right-to-work bill in the state of Maine, it was deplored by the Lewiston Sun, the kind of thing we should not have in Maine politics. The link is there to go back and read that editorial from last fall if you want to. But the Maine Election Commission, they came out with a statement only a few weeks ago saying that this was reprehensible, undesirable, and whatever else they called it. They said the money came in on these Senate races too late for them to get the matching money for the 5 senators to use effectively in their campaigns. So we have a tidal wave of Rove slush fund bucks that wiped out 5 candidates, Democratic candidates, for the Maine State Senate. So the question is, do we really want money from South Korea and Japan and Taiwan electing senators in the Maine Senate? I don't think so. The answer to that, to me, is obvious. Nationally, we have a number of movements, such as the women's movement, the civil rights movement, and the labor movement. I can't speak for the first two, but after more than 50 years of involvement, going back to working with labor unions in San Francisco in 1950 and that period, I think I can, to some extent, speak for the labor movement. It only takes 4 words to describe the labor movement. One word is solidarity. United we stand, divided we fall. United we stand, divided we fall. The other 3 are the final words of more than 100 years ago, when a famous labor organizer of miners in the West was about to be executed basically for labor activity. And he said, don't mourn, organize. Don't mourn, organize. If the Maine People's Veto Alliance develops into an effective tool of Maine progressives, I hope the 4 words defining it will be solidarity, organization, and people power. Thank you.